Hello, my name's Scott Davis, and welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for August 24th to August 30th of 2014. On August 24th, we have the sun, which we can see right here as being the black circle with the dot in it. It's an early Virgo. It's also in the 59th hexagram, which we can see the stack of lines representing it on the outside of the wheel, going from bottom to top, yin, yang, yin, yin, yang, yang. That 59th hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel that's called a gate. And here we can have the 59th gate of sexuality, dispersion, the ability to break down barriers to achieve union. It's located in the sacral center in a tribal energy path in the defense circuit called the channel of mating, a design of focused on reproduction that connects with the sixth gate of friction, conflict, the fundamental design component of progress, the law that growth cannot exist without friction. And I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we have the following gates activated on the 24th. We've got the sun in the 59th gate. We have the earth in the 55th gate. The north node is in the 57th gate, with the south node in the 51st gate, along with Uranus. And then we also have Mercury is in the 64th gate. Venus is in the 7th gate. Mars is in the 1st gate with Saturn. Jupiter is in the 33rd. Like I said, Uranus is retrograde in the 51. Neptune is retrograde in the 37, and Pluto is retrograde in the 38. Obviously, not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And you can get your human design chart by going to jovianarchive.com and click on the button that says get your free rave chart, and then just enter your birth information. Basically, the neutrino forecast is just a weather report. And no matter what the weather is, your individual strategy and authority is the correct choice to have an authentic experience regardless of the program. And as Ra Uru said, whatever the weather is going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather is for your pleasure. And as we begin this week, we have no channel definitions due to the transit field. We're going to be looking at the sun's Ravi Ching line values daily, because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come through the sun. And as Ra said in Design Perspectives 59 in his presentation, Living with the Program, the lines of the day, when we talk about these daily shifts in line values, he said we can take advantage of the theme of the day. Now, obviously, if your strategy and authority does not really lead you in that direction, what you can do is just kind of notice how the program is affecting others in your environment. So let's get started. August 24th, we begin with the sun in the 59th gate of sexuality, dispersion, the ability to break down barriers to achieve union. And the sun is in the first line where it's exalted in the preemptive strike. It exalted the authority and validity that in understanding purpose and direction, we can recognize and eliminate barriers before they become impregnable. The power of fertility to impregnate. And we're here in the first line, the first, second, and third lines. That energy gives people more of an inward perspective. They're more absorbed in their own process. The theme of the first line day is fear or anxiety that needs to be investigated, research. This is the line of the investigator. So it's a day to study, a day to look into things, a day to try to understand things that you don't understand, can't make sense of, or simply don't know. Basically a day to research. But later on the 24th, the sun moves into the second line, into the line of the Hermit. Again, 59th hexagram. This shift happens at 3:12 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. All the times I'm going to be giving you will be Eastern Daylight Time, so you want to convert them to your local time zone. And the sun in the 59:2 is described as shyness, self-imposed barriers, exalted a preference and natural separateness that protects against the inevitable instability engendered by union, the restriction of sex drive to maintain separateness. Detrimented, it's a calculated shyness rooted in deep psychological barriers that even in dynamic individuals will always restrict interaction. Infertility rooted in psychologically or biologically, that conditions the drive for separateness. And when we get to a second line day, we're looking at the hermit, at the natural. So people are waiting to be called for things. They are favoring being in their homes and things like that. So it might not be a time to have a large social event, because people are probably going to more feel the energy of just being in at their hermitage. And then also on the 24th, Mercury moves, and it moves from the 64 to the 47. And Mercury is the messenger of the gods. It's about communication. It's about the expansion of human consciousness through communication, but also through music. And what do we need to communicate in our lives? Well, we communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. And what might be communicated with Mercury in the 47, past oppression. This is the gate of realizing oppression, a restrictive and adverse state as a result of internal weakness or external strength, or both. And Mercury is in the 47-1. It's in the first line because it's moving direct, which is taking stock. Exalted, the ability in times of hardship to concentrating on eradicating the negative factors that have led to oppression, realizing that negative thoughts have to be eradicated. Detrimented, the delusion of sensing oppression as an exclusively external phenomena with disastrous results, the sense that the world is against you. And then on the 25th, the sun moves into the third line of the 59th hexagram. This shift happening at 2:32 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is openness, exalted, where the search for identity and security can only be achieved through the dropping of barriers in order to define oneself through union, where one is empowered through union and intimacy with others. Detrimented, where openness is transformed into promiscuity and its attendant problems, where the drive for empowerment through union and intimacy can lead to promiscuity. Third line days, are days where, we've got bonds made and broken, trial and error process, discovery that comes from figuring out what doesn't work. And so it's a day to be careful on the roads, be careful of things in your immediate environment. It's a day where we might have bonds made or bonds broken. It's a day where there's a trial and error process where things bump into you. It's things that are happening on the material plane. But it might be a day that would be good for business, but you got to be careful because things can go wrong. But the things that go wrong are here to lead us towards discovery, with the third line energetic. And then the 26th, the sun moves into the fourth line of the 59th hexagram. The shift happening at 1:51 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's described as brotherhood or sisterhood, exalted, the dropping of barriers to union to establish a universal union, the power derived from non-sexual intimacy. Detrimented, an intellectual understanding that can rarely can really be put into action, where the idea cannot restrain the sex drive. And fourth line days, again, this is where we're changing from the lower trigram to the upper trigram. We're changing from a more internal perspective to more of an external perspective. And the themes that we have that we're experiencing is, we have themes of things like friendship and companionship, of networking. Fourth line days are great for social interaction. People are more open to networking and being friendly and social with the fourth line energetic. On the 27th, the sun then moves out of the line of the opportunist into the heretic line of the 59th hexagram. The shift happening at 1:09 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun is exalted in the 59.5. It's described as the femme fatale or the Casanova, exalted the power to use love to break down a barrier. Given the sun's lightness, there's no negative connotation inherent in this description. The power of sexuality to attract others. And like I said, fifth line days, it's the heretic. It's a day of suspicion, but also universalization, where things can go viral, whether it's a YouTube video or a Facebook posting, things of that nature. But of course, there's also a great deal of suspicion and paranoia on a fifth line day, because of this projection, and the projection on people is that they'd be great at it, they could do it, and then if they don't do it, can't do it, for whatever reason it doesn't get done, then there's the punishment that comes along with it. And this is very real as a fifth line being. So I just want to let other fifth line beings know, it's not paranoia if they're really out to get you. Other themes of the fifth line energy are, besides projection, we also have seduction. Also on the 27th, Venus moves from the seventh gate up to the 4. And also Mars leaves Saturn in the first gate, and it moves into the 43rd gate. Get everybody set up here. So let's start with Venus. Venus is very powerful and deeply misunderstood, according to Ra. It brings morality, natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us, what disturbs you on at a moral level. And he talks about your design and personality. Venus is telling you about the moral dilemma that you're going to work with in your life. And that if you don't act with moral clarity, Venus can be unkind in its retribution. Well, Venus is in the fourth gate of formalization, youthful folly, the energy to beguile and succeed despite ignorance, the freedom from retribution. And Venus is in the first line, so investigative line of the fourth gate, and this is pleasure. Ultimate pleasure cannot be achieved without perfect timing. Exalted, the instinct to know the right moment and circumstances where pleasure is rewarded and not punished. The potential to recognize that there is a natural timing to the understanding process. Detrimented, timing is not a product of discipline. Exaggerated self-discipline leads to the abuse of pleasure. The potential to recognize, but the urge to force the timing. Also on the 27th, we've got Mars has moved from the first gate into the 43. And this is the gate of insight, breakthrough. In order for achievement to be maintained, a new order must be fairly established. Mars is detrimented in the sixth line of the 43, but it's moving direct at this point. So it enters the first line of patience. It's exalted. It's the recognition that new forms cannot be established unless resistance has been eliminated. The depth necessary to bring into form an individual insight. Detrimented and impatience to enjoy the sweets of accomplishment that leaves a sour taste in the mouth. a delight in insight, but the lack of depth to establish it. And Ra talked about Mars being an extraordinary and immature energy resource that lacks refinement and subject to outburst, which the 43rd gate is also subject to outbursts or just to blurt things out anyway. Um, and so we probably will see more of that, people sharing their insights in a a way that probably will come across more freakish than genius. But anyway, Mars represents the warrior archetype. By following our strategy and authority, we slowly refine our energy of our design and personality Mars from immaturity to wisdom. And on the 28th, the sun then moves up into the sixth line, the role model line of the 59th hexagram. The shift happening at 12:27, just 27 minutes after midnight on Eastern Daylight Time. So the sun in the 59.6 is the one night stand. It's a tendency based on personality or circumstances to accept only temporary unions that may be otherwise impossible or dangerous to continue. Exalted, the perfected relationship, whether for the moment or for an eternity. The power of intimacy regardless of conditions. Detrimented, the basic drive to move on that seeks impermanence as a matter of course and not in response to circumstances. The drive for sexual and intimate diversity. And Ra talks about six line days, these role model days. We're up here on the roof of the hexagram. The sixth line looks beyond. If you're on the roof, you're not looking at the house you're on. You're looking at everything else in your neighborhood. The sixth line tends to look at everything else in its circuit group. So what are we looking at? Well, so we could get stuck with our head in the clouds because of the lack of focus, which could then lead to things bumping into our shins or kneecaps. Like a third line day, there's dangers of not seeing car coming, not seeing the bill coming, things of that nature. But then later on the 28th, and every so often we get the sun changes into one gate early in the morning and then moves into another gate late in the evening, and that's what we have on the 28th. The sun moves out of the 59th gate and into the 40th gate, which then brings this definition. And with that, the Earth also changes from being in the 55th gate to it moves into the 37, because this channel is actually a polarity. I'll talk about that in a moment. Where it's joining Neptune in the gate of friendship, the family, the manifestation, macro and microcosmically of the organic state of communities. And this shift happens at 11:44 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, with the sun in the 40th gate of Aloneness, Deliverance, the point of transition between struggle and liberation. And the sun's exalted in the first line, so in the investigative line of the 40th hexagram, which is recuperation. Exalted, it's the ability to relax and enjoy the fruits of one's behavior, the ego strength to enjoy being alone. And like I was talking about earlier, the first, second, third line days, the focus is much more inward. And we talked about the first line quite a bit. Basically it's a day to investigate, to look into things, to do research. That kind of energy comes along with the first line energetic, the investigator. The 28th, we have Mercury moves from the 47 and into the 6. And So again, we talked about Mercury being the messenger of the gods, that this is about communication. So what might be communicated when Mercury is in the sixth? Well, being open or closed to intimacy. This is the gate of friction, conflict, the fundamental design component of progress. That law, the law for growth cannot exist without friction. And Mercury is detrimented in the first line of the sixth hexagram, um, and which is the inferiority complex, where retreat is experienced as personal weakness, emotional instability in times of conflict. The title for the sixth one is retreat, the realization that wasting one's resources against overwhelming odds is not courage but folly. Um, and with the sun in the 40, the Earth and Neptune in the 37, we have one of the three channels that's defined by a polarity. The other channels that are defined by the polarity are the 3420 and the 4323. But um, we're talking about the sun in the 40, the Earth and Neptune in the 37. We have the channel of community, and it will be with us until September 3rd. This definition brings energy where people will wonder where they belong in the scheme of things, and then try to live that out. It's a time of thinking about marriage and family as the foundation of community. Balance becomes important in all aspects of life. People will explore how they fit into their community, and on a more mystical level, how they fit into the universe and what their purpose is. And then on the 29th, the sun moves into the second line. So we're moving from the investigative line into the hermit line of the 40th hexagram. This shift happens at 11:01 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun's exalted in the second line of the 40th hexagram. It's described as resoluteness. Exalted is the power and authority in deliverance to shed forever the qualities which hamper liberation. The power through aloneness to recognize the importance and the potential disruptive effect on others. Um, in second line days, again, people are waiting for things, they're waiting to be called. It's definitely a more introspective day, a day where the energy is more of being at home, particularly in the gate of aloneness, the 40th. And then on the 30th, the sun moves into the third line, the line of the martyr. We're going to get our ego center back up here. So it moves into the line of the martyr, and that happens at 10:17 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is humility, a calculated mode of deliverance to avoid attracting the attention of negative forces. Exalted, the subtlety to enjoy deliverance without having to flaunt it, the capacity of the ego to avoid negative forces, even if it means being alone, detrimented the ego arrogance that demands attention and gets it, the capacity of the ego to demand attention. And third line days, we talked about it. This is the martyr, so trial and error process, bonds made and broken, system of discovery by figuring out what doesn't work, are all those themes that this would bring into the day. And then, so during this week, the sun is completing moving through the 7, the 4, the 29, and the 59th hexagrams, which are associated with the Thoth Godhead, and we're beginning to moving through the hexagrams of the 40, the 64, the 47, and the 6, which are associated with the Harmonia Godhead, which I'm going to cover in next week's offering. So anyway, no matter what energies are conditioning you during the week, just remember that you are just sorry. Remember that this experience is about being a passenger riding in a vehicle driven by the magnetic monopole. So it's good to just sit back, enjoy the scenery, let the vehicle take you where you need to go by using your strategy and authority. Because every single day we have is a blessing, no matter what the dramas are that are beckoning to distract us. I believe we're all here to give the performance of our lifetimes on this world stage. But observe the play as well as act your part by remembering your spiritual being that's having a human experience. And I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. Our next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be on August 31st of 2014. Should be available on the 30th, when we'll continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook or Blogger or YouTube. There's New World Birth pages in each of those places. I encourage you to share this information as videos or text as widely as you choose. And I'm going to be discussing the transits of September of 2014 and providing some short human design readings to the participants of the Earth Needs Rebel show on Truth Frequency Radio on Tuesday, September 22nd. Sorry, Tuesday, September 2nd, not the 22nd, the 2nd, beginning of the month. And the show starts at 1. It goes to 3. I come on about 1:30, again, Eastern Daylight Time. And it's a great opportunity. If you want to participate in the show, just get into the chat space on for the Earth Needs Rebels on Truth Frequency Radio webpage. And or you can personal message Katie, and they'll call you for free anywhere on the planet to bring you live onto the show on Tuesday, September 2nd. And as always, I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or wish to schedule a reading. And if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. As always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for all these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. And I look forward to connecting with you in the future, either in a reading or on the radio show or a future video. So thanks for being here. All my best to everyone.